store.designandmake.com. Let's head over to store.designandmake.com, type in what you're looking for, and then click Go. If you see what you're looking for, click it. Have a look through the project. Look at some of the single models that come along with the project. Have a look at the assembled layouts. A finished project. And then have a look at the project sheet. If you like what you see, go ahead and add it to your cart, make the purchase, download it, and install it. First thing we're going to do is open up our software and set up a brand new job. The dimensions here are going to reflect our layout sheet, so we want them to be as big as the piece will be once it's all assembled. Let's go ahead to our Design and Make folder and have a look at the Furry Friends #2 model project. Let's start off with the plank for the back. So this is going to be on its own sheet of material. We're just going to size it up to fit the height of our actual sheet that we have. And let's grab the bone next, and we'll just position it near the bottom of that back plank and size it appropriately to fit in there. Now let's grab the curious puppy and bring that in, and we'll size it up to fit as well. Once we have that position where we want it, let's have a look at our 3D view and start to add a bit of base height to the bone and the puppy face to push it up through the back plank. And this is mainly just to show a customer maybe potentially what the layout's going to look like, because we're going to remove that base height later on once we break this up onto their own sheets. Now once we have that layout all correct the way we want it, we can go ahead now and lay out some text for V-carving. We're going to compose our whole section of V-carving text here, and then we'll break it up onto individual lines in just a second. Choose a nice font that's going to work for this project. We'll go ahead and break those up onto their own individual lines and place them where we want those lines to be on our sign. This is where you can get a bit creative with your text. I like to kind of tuck things in behind things and layer them up nicely so they look kind of interesting. And of course you're going to want to look at your kerning and so on once you get everything all sorted out and where it needs to be. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, the next thing we want to do is to break it up onto sheets. So let's rename our initial sheet layout. We'll create a front sheet that's for the puppy's face and the bone, and then a back sheet for the back plank. Let's copy the parts that we want to have on the back on their own individual boards to the back sheet. And we'll do the same with the puppy face and the text for the front, and we'll copy that to our front. We're going to need a vector outline of the puppy and bone so that we can create a pocket in that back plank. So we've done that there and copied that to that back sheet. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and to set up that sheet properly by creating the proper thickness and the proper width. So now we're going to need a proper pocket vector. So we're going to select this vector that we have. We're going to offset it out once the radius of our tool, and then inwards twice the radius of our tool, and then outwards once more. And we're only going to keep that last vector for our pocket. Top tip there. And there we have it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create a vector boundary from the plank, offset that outwards 1/4 inch, and then we're going to use that to only keep the vectors, the parts of the two vectors that cross over each other, which is that inside bit. And that's what we're going to pocket out in the end. Here we go now. We're going to do the same with the front sheet, except we're going to rotate the actual layout so that the grain of the wood will follow the actual plank sign or the bone sign. Adjust our sheet appropriately so that it's the right size for that particular part of the layout. Okay, let's have a look at these two components here. We're going to need to remove the base height that we added to those initially, but then we're going to add a little bit of base height to the puppy to push him up through that bone. And then we're going to want to check the shape height of our composite model and make sure that it fits with inside our material thickness. 0.65 should do the trick. Yeah, let's go ahead and start to create some tooling for this. We need a vector boundary to isolate our tooling. We'll need to check our material setup. And once that all looks good, we can go ahead and start to create the very basic tooling for this job, which will be a roughing pass, a finishing pass, a V-carve pass, and then also a profile cut. Some of the things you're going to want to keep in mind is that you're going to want to project your V-carving onto the 3D model. That's at the very bottom of the V-carving form. And always, always preview all of your tooling to make sure that it's exactly what you expect to see on your machine. And if not, go back and change it. Let's move on to the back plank now. Now, instead of us going ahead and doing a 3D cut across this whole thing, what we're going to do is we're actually going to use that profile around the plank to create a very easy profile cut that's going to look pretty much like what you can see in the 3D model, but we're going to save ourselves lots of time. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut that pocket out where the puppy and bone is going to fit in the end. There we have that. We used a little bit of an allowance on that to make the pocket slightly bigger. Do our V-carving next. And again, you'll note that we haven't done any 3D cuts on this back plank. Close that down, grab that vector that we have for that boundary. We'll calculate a profile toolpath to cut out the board. And in the end, if you wanted to reestablish those nice sharp points on those cracks at the top and bottom of the board, you could just use a Stanley knife to do that with. Let's calculate that. There we have it. All said and done. Now we've got the two sets of toolpaths. Let's get off and cut them in the labs.